Malo se fu manuia ile pionga ya tala pat fo I amuse il dato openga runga radio Samoa au kilangi New Zealand ya ma so smanga fo I o le kelope o lo nga du me tanto paanga o le dato programme nei tu sa o tu ma United States of America wa fo do si le fia no lo tupu ne tu no ya fi tanga Samoa me sa tupu me lo tupu ya me fo I o le a tupu ya ai ele I tono le tunu ya fa tu fo ele avil paptai I tatu tama lang ya me se fo ya le tapo inga le au fa penga ya sunga fo I fai au ya me se tamam tina ma tua ya o lo fo fa na witi la to lo o pa fonga mai I siva ngol te lo pe lungo panga fai lang ta flava ta to po klam nei I le nei fo I tai au ya ai fa tai lo fo I il tatu o panga luenga na na ke tu lava po wa I lungo le laina le tatu a sui o le nei tai au fa mo le lava le sunga po ya Ricky no sina li fa
ya le we el tatu vala le we el tatu malo falangia ke no manga falalo
ya le lava ya tala falava Ricky o le a fa tu sina I'll just briefly touch on your background in Samoa ya ole tinafo ya Ricky Manura liu pau po Ricky no sina liu pau ya se tasi fo o tamali ya se tasi fo o to le tunu o tu langa ne fa fi fianga ya me se fo ya tatu pese ma tatu siva I te tonu o ne tu ya Ricky sa pa no me ya se ma tasi te siva li mapa I Hollywood California o na matua Estela no sina Reed ya mai I le ainga fo I sa sua pa ia I le lalapanga o sa le longa I se vai ya o lona tama fo o Maxwell Reed Jr. ya mai le lalapanga I pia o leva na te tonu o United States ya le ainga nei ya ma o ta fo I le au siva tele te o nono sina wala wi loa le ngata le tunu nei a lalangi atoa mai taone o mo se abanoa on se tasi le o au siva po au papia na mataina mai te siva no lima na mata mai lona kina o Estela no sina Reed ya mai sa lang so yai pe sa so son yai ya le kina fo ya Ricky Vitemi o Talabo o ya Ricky ni fo ma o mo sa abanoa pentela no ono se tasi o Samoa longa fo ia la tu sao ia tatu tu mangi penua mai se ia pese ia ngata ia Samoa ai o siva ma pese Tahiti Rarotonga na so se atu ulava o le Pasifika ia mai sa sang mai fo ia tina ia Ricky pen 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 mata nanga ngana pa Britania ona ngana le la bailo na si le PM pen fam talina ma do le tunu ia tatu talanoanga ina I manino wa foi lau fa fonga mai Samoa. Yeah, I want to welcome you on Radio Samoa. Ricky, thank you for having the time to talk with us, Ricky.
Oh, thank you.
I'll give you this, in the beginning, just any introductory remarks to our audience around the globe on Radio Samoa.
Oh, that sounds great. What would we like to open up with?
Let me start with this. Can you kind of give us a history of Nonosina and also how when it first started and up until now?
Yes. On the history, my mom was born in Samoa, Polynesian. She then had moved to Hawaii at the age of 12. From Hawaii, she moved to California when she was about 16. And she got involved in Polynesian dancing before she met my father. His father was a Polynesian entertainer. That was where Max Reed was from. And he had a Hawaiian wife, and they were involved in in the movie business. She came from Hawaii, he came from Samoa, where they were in the movie industry and actors. And he also had a Polynesian dance group. So when my mom came up, he used her as his palpo. And then my mom got very active in the dancing. My mom's family is also very active in Polynesian music and dance. So after she got married, she always wanted to start her own group and studio. But it was kind of interesting because my father wasn't that supportive on it because he didn't really see anybody that wanted to pay to learn how to do dancing. But she had a very strong will on my mom. She was very determined. And even though some were against it, she started her dance group out of our garage. I was born in L.A., and then till the age of 3, we moved to Buena Park, California. And my mom, Nonacina started at our house in the garage. A couple years passed, and then we got a studio. But what's interesting is we've never stopped. Since 1965, we've been 100% active. We never stopped teaching till today. And next year, we will hit 60 years in the Polynesian dance industry. So it's been a very long run. In the early days in California, you didn't really have many, Polynesian dance schools, instruction and all that. So we were really one of the more earlier pioneers of that. So I really give my mom credit because coming from Samoa at such a young age to California, she was very determined on having a dance school. So if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be basically who we are. So I'm just happy that her dream came true, and then generations passed, and it went from me to my children that are still currently active in Nonacina today.
From 1965, what's your estimation? How many students have gone through Nonacina Academy or your classroom? How many of them from 65 to now?
Thousands.
Yeah.
Well, right now, because we have limited enrollment, so right now how we run it, we have open enrollment, but we cut off at 300 students. And once it exceeds that, they have to wait till the next registration. But if we were to add up from 1965 to the present, it's literally been thousands of dancers and students that have gone through our school. And there's a lot of current groups that we have now. It's interesting that they at one time or another also came through the studio. So it's definitely one of the oldest.
What are some of the most, famous or renowned stages that Nonacina has performed on?
I would say a Polynesian Cultural Center in Hawaii, in Tahiti, the Tawata, which is where they hold their the Heba, the festivals. On Tawata, we were one of the first, especially on American groups that did a full presentation there, under our name, not, going through Tahiti with our own identity. I would say the Tawata in Tahiti and also the Miriam Monarch stage, where we were invited as guests for the Hawike. We did that twice, and we have an invitation next year also to be a third time. There is that stage on Miriam Monarch. And my son also has lived for, maybe 12 years or so in Japan. So we've been very strong there, too, in Japan. And we've done Mexico. We've literally done around the world. It's a lot. But the more famous ones, I would say, is the Tawata in Tahiti and Polynesian Cultural Center in Laie and the Miriam Monarch invited on Hawike that is in Hilo. That, to me, is some of the more prestigious stages, as far as the cultural realm on Polynesian dance that we have been invited to dance on.
Mm-hmm. Looking back, what are some of the best or great advice from your mother about entertainment or about, the performing arts?
I think for her, because to know her, she set the bar very high. So she was, to be honest, a tough teacher. For me, kind of being brought up from her, under her lineage, she compliments were kind of non-existent because she was really tough. And I think she always didn't want anything just to do it, on anything average. Her bar was always set up high, and she was very driven, very strict. At times when I'm young, I thought, oh, she's mean. But no, when I look back now, a lot of our greatest lessons on our standards and setting the bar high actually came from her. My reflection is different. Now that I'm older, looking back, I understand why she was the way she was. And she was tough, and she's very straight up, kind of, I don't know, to anybody, she'll just tell you straight exactly how it is. So some people kind of look at her as being kind of tough, kind of mean, but I believe that a lot of really good dancers, not bragging, have come out of our school.
I
that
saw
were
that,
also future dance leaders.
I saw that, is it the Moana or your daughter or your son is working for Hollywood, a movie, or is it production out of Moana or a production?
Yeah. My daughter, Tiana, well, she did the Moana, when it was animated. And then now they're going into a live-action Moana, which is combined with Disney and The Rock. And she is involved in that, as well as my son, Navina, is also a part of that, too, on the choreography part and stuff. So that's why I went a little bit. They've gone to Hawaii, and they did auditions over there. I went on that, and then they had big auditions in Hollywood. So they've been doing the casting for that, and I believe the filming is going to be starting this year, I believe from July. And so they're both going to be pretty active in that. And for me, I just, at the studio and kind of, we have a staff of teachers, but then where my role comes in, I just stay with Nonacina and keep that school going, which was my mom's dream, so I'm just carrying it. I'm old, but I'm still very active. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, and, I was going to ask you because you don't just, do one Polynesian, one genre in terms of Samoan or Hawaiian. You do everything. One of your specialties is the, Tahitian style. Can you talk a little bit about what do you teach in the classes?
Yes. The history of our school was we really started off with Samoan, Hawaiian, Maori, the basic Polynesian genre. And where it changed, I think that's where I came in because at the age of 17, I toured with a group that originally came out of Tahiti. They were called the Tahitians. And they were going on tour. So I went on that tour with them because I was the only non-Tahitian in there. And then I got heavily into Tahitian dance, so that's when the studio kind of changed. It wasn't really my mom that did that because she was more into all Polynesian. But then I really took a strong passion in Tahitian dance, so that's when it kind of turned. And then we're going to move on to when my son at a young age went to Tahiti, and then he even ended up living there on one part and got heavy into Tahitian. And then my daughter also, too, got into the drumming. So that's why we kind of went on that genre. And I think I have had people telling me it's kind of different because they know on our ancestry, because we're mostly Samoan and Hawaiian, Tongan, and they're just kind of wondering why was it that we picked an island that wasn't in our ancestry. But I said, I don't know. I guess it was just the passion because when it came to Tahitian dance, even when I learned hula as a young girl, because on my tutu, my grandmother was a hula dancer teacher, but it was funny on her history too. She told me she always had a passion for Tahitian dance too, so it could have started from there. And then for me, I don't know, we got so heavy into it, and then we were heavy in the dance competitions and stuff like that because it was motivating, and it wasn't really just about a trophy. It was just kind of going in there and motivating us we always felt this thing to raise the bar because our goal wasn't to stay in neutral and to be the same. I think we're just kind of all driven, and that came from my mom, to always be the best you can be so there is no stopping on learning. You know what I mean? It just goes, it goes on and on. So till today, we always push to the best we can be, and not how we looked years ago, but to always kind of keep it innovative and fresh. And another thing I'd like to share, it's very interesting because I find like on Hawaiian, it's very structured, traditional. You got to stay within a certain element in it, and it's strict. And Samoans too stay, pretty much along a traditional line. But what's very interesting that amazes me with Tahitian culture, it's a living culture, which means it's not stuck in time. Like there's a lot of directors, and they like to dance in how they danced in the 70s or the 60s. But then I'm told by some of the practitioners in Tahiti, it doesn't stay frozen in time from that time. Being it's a living culture, it revolves. So I think that fascinates me with Tahitian dance, that it's also fresh. You know what I mean? Things you can do stuff with that is more accepted because it is living. So you can get very creative. It's not locked in a box. But that's just from my view. I know somebody else will say, oh, I totally disagree. But I'm only saying my view because I'm open to everybody's opinion on dance, and it may not agree with mine, but yet I'm very open-minded, and I don't push my views that that's the only right way. That's only my vision.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, culture is never stagnant. It always evolves and changes. And you've seen the development of Polynesian music and dances through the years and through the decades. And from your observations and your opinion, what are some of the good evolutionary, changes, and what are not so good the way you see it? Because there's always good and there's always bad in certain evolution, and we see that also in the performing arts in Samoa and the others.
I think when it comes to dance, it's always important on the research. I think for some, dance is just strictly entertainment. So you know what I mean? There's not a lot of protocol in there and stuff. So I think it's very important that when we dance, like for us, we're heavy into Tahitian dance. So every year we go to Tahiti, and we also take my dancers there, and then we also have them train there. And we're very fortunate because, like, myself, my son, and Tiana are one of the international judges when we go to Tahiti, that they invite us as judges to be a judge. And it's not that we're from there, but I think it's an international thing, and also from Tahitians, because it's basically all Tahitian panel. But they said that they'd like to open it to also have the international judges in there. But they're kind of picky who is an international judge. So it's always been an honor that we judge there. But I think it's important when we do stuff. I mean, even when we do Samoan and stuff like that, because we've been very fortunate to work with the Samaitai team because we're also related with them on Puni Toilolo and with them. And I know they're very much into the research part. So I'd like to do Polynesian dancing, but not just to do it or copy it off of a video that some do, but to kind of learn more about the dance, where it comes from, and translation, language, and just protocol. Because there still is a protocol, I think, among all Polynesians, and to be aware of that. And, you know, we try our best, too, to still be respectful.
Just for our listeners on radio, Ricky Liu Fau, Nonosina. I'm on air with Ricky Liu Fau from Nonosina, California. And probably my last question or observations, can you tell us any big projects in the future for Nonosina?
Well, gosh, on the projects right now for Nonosina, we're always living, so we're always moving. You know what I mean? Of course, we have many different performances. We're heavy into the training. And I think for right now, for Tiana and my son are going to be busy in the Moana project, you know, for that movie that's going to be coming up. We're excited to be invited on next year for Merry Monarchs, you know, for the Hawike. That'll be going back there. And every November, we always go to Tahiti. They have the World Championship there, OTN, Ori Tahiti World Championship, directed by Manoj Leotel and Tumata Robinson. And they run something there that competitors come from all over around the world to meet there in Tahiti and to compete. And it's basically celebrating on their love of Tahitian dance, Ori Tahiti. So we always go to that every November. And gosh, I know I love going to Hawaii, like on Laia when they had their 60th anniversary. I love that. I got a soft spot with Laia because, you know, my mom's family and stuff, they all come from there. So I do love going to Hawaii, too, because, I don't know, it's just a certain mana that I feel when I go there. And I think of my childhood on summers when they'd send us back there and we'd dance when we used to have the hooky now before they even had PCC, and a lot of adventures that I remember from when I was young on dancing out there. I always have a close connection to. So I think for us being from California, I don't know, Ken, I think sometimes we try even harder because I can't take it that we're directly from the islands and then, you know what I mean, I'm from here, so it's all good. I think when we come from California, you almost have to try harder to prove a point because even though we are Polynesian in blood, but we don't live directly in the islands. So we try to keep that alive, so we work really hard to and for our students.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ricky Liu Fau, for taking the time. I know you're busy today. Just give you this final moment for say your last, greetings or shout out to anybody listening on Radio Samoa.
I just want to say I'm a very proud Polynesian, even though I know some people think, okay, they're born in Hollywood, raised in California, but I just want them to know, even though we are Polynesian and we're not living in our direct homeland where our lineage comes from, but our passion for the dance, for the culture is so strong. We did not lose our identity in exactly knowing where we come from. So that is very, very strong. I think for my weakness, what I feel bad on, because I am 51% Samoan. I should be speaking Samoan. I think I didn't that is my biggest regret, not speaking Samoan. But I think my mom was young when she got married, like 17. So I think when we were being raised, I think she was just working on doing English. But my mom was a very proud Samoan, so she was very current with her language. And then I married a Samoan. He's very, he's born and raised in Samoa, speaking on Samoan. So what my kids did is they went and they took the Leingafa classes, for Samoan. And I am really impressed because when you were talking earlier, my son was kind of like on the side he could hear, and he was translating. So they got pretty good on that. So they're into learning their language, where their ancestry comes from, and that's on speaking Samoan. So if I had anything, my biggest regret, I'll be honest with you, Ken, it's like I need to know my language, but now when you get older, I don't have a good memory. I'm just not good on memorizing, but I'm glad that my kids now are very active in on learning their language. And my son was lucky because he's lived in Tahiti, so I mean, not that he's the best, but he understands French, he understands Tahitian very well. But he said it's important now, though, that he has to go where his origin is from, and that's Samoa, and learning the language. So my kids now are trying to fix that, and I'm proud of them for that. Yeah. They weren't nagged to do it. They wanted on their own to learn on their language where their bloodline comes from.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ricky, for your time. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Ken, for the lava.
Lava. Yes, Samoa, or that proclaiming that, Nistaya or Ricky. What to put Tay Madulatinu, yeah, the Mofosava Noah on Shibal now, looked at the Inayan as a Alo Samoa, or Shiva between Telena, Poltele, Stone, or the United States of America, Itulanga, Vaponesia. After we so sala al ne on the man wa bai patua tu la bai na ai mo nei tu la sai fo